There's a bell up near McKee that don't call nobody to worship. It ain't for Sunday meeting. It rings for something darker. When the bell tolls, low and lonesome like a storm trying to speak, that means she's chosen. The curse is already setting in, and if you're hearing it now, you might just be next. Welcome back to Kentucky Melody, where the trees lean in to listen. And sometimes the wind don't blow 'cause it's holding its breath. We're deep in the hollers now, and with Halloween creeping round the bend, we're lighting lanterns for the lost and shining a light on the old stories folks don't dare tell after dark. This here's part of our brand new series, Witch Hollers of Kentucky. A whole mess of tales about hexes, hauntings, and women who walk the line between healer and harbinger. So grab something warm, tuck the quilt round your legs, and don't you dare listen to this one alone. Tonight's tale winds its way through Jackson County, through fog-draped ridges and bottomlands where the moss don't grow right. Folks round McKee whisper of a bell, one you don't want to hear tolling. They say it don't hang from no church steeple, and it don't need no hand to swing it. It belongs to a woman long buried, if you believe she ever died at all. Callie was born sometime around 1812, just past where the creek bends like a crooked finger through a stand of hemlocks that never lose their green, even in dead winter. Her mama, Maudeline, was a midwife feared more than loved. Folks said she could turn a breech baby with just a prayer and a knife. She had a laugh like cold wind over water, high, sharp, and unnatural. Her eyes were always rimmed in dark, and she wore bones in her hair the way other women wore ribbon. Her daddy was a blacksmith, tall and silent with arms like stone. But he weren't the church-going kind. They said he used to hammer iron on Sundays while muttering to things that ain't ever been named. He'd carve odd runes into the tools he forged, and he kept a pit fire burning out back all year long, even when there weren't no work to be done. They raised Callie in a crooked cabin with no chimney, just a hole in the roof for the smoke to drift through, like ghosts leaving their bodies. And from the time she could walk, she wandered barefoot in the woods, whispering to trees and pulling feathers from crows that landed on her shoulders like they knew her. She didn't play with dolls. She buried 'em, said they didn't sleep right. By 12, Callie was reading clouds like scripture, predicting weather 3 days out with nothing but a glance. She bound wounds with moss, rabbit's blood, and murmurs in a tongue nobody could name. She cured thrush with a kiss and a string soaked in creek water, but only if she liked you. She knew when folks were lying, and worse, she knew why they lied. Her eyes had a weight to 'em, pale gray like stone before a storm. Looking into 'em was like catching your reflection in a still pond and seeing something standing behind you that weren't really there. They called her blessed at first, but in a place like McKee, blessings turn to blasphemy quick, especially when folks start hurting. The first to fall was Jeb Halder, a hired hand who raised a hand to her after drinking too deep on a Saturday night. Next morning, he was found twisted in a ditch, claimed the tree roots moved beneath his mule, tangled up his reins, and snapped his arms clean. Said he heard laughing in the trees. High up, claimed it was hers. Then the preacher's girl, Maybelle, came down with boils, black and slick like crude oil bubbling up from the devil's well. Skin peeled from her neck like old bark. Her daddy had mocked Callie just 2 weeks prior, calling her a heathen girl with the devil's mouth. The worst was Sheriff Lowell, called her a barefoot demon after she spat on the jailhouse steps. 3 nights later, he was found stone dead in his bed, hands clenched, eyes wide, mouth frozen in a scream that ain't no man alive could imitate. Doctors blamed a stroke. Old folks knew better. By then, folks were crossing the road when they saw her coming. Mothers whispered prayers into their children's ears and scratched crosses into their backs with fingernails. Chickens stopped laying near her house. Dogs howled and snapped at shadows or lay down and whimpered when her scent blew through. And then she vanished. One October dusk, the kind where the sun bleeds into the ridgeline like it's being pulled under, Callie was seen walking up toward Brim Holler. She carried a satchel of roots, a bundle of bones tied with red thread, and a rusted iron bell her daddy had forged years before. Folks said it weren't like any bell they'd heard, had no clapper, but sang when held. She didn't say goodbye. She just walked into the trees and never came out. That very night, the bell rang, but not like any bell from a church. This was hollow, distant, like it came from under the dirt, faint as breath through stone, a sound that made the hairs rise on the backs of necks like something old had been stirred awake. It rang when Annie Collier's baby was born, cold and stiff. It rang the night the Harlow boys drowned. In water so shallow, their daddy said he could still see their faces staring up through the mud. It rang just before the courthouse fire in 1901, when the building went up like dry pine and no cause was ever found. And every time it rang, folks went quiet. Some dropped their heads, others just muttered, "Callie's castin' again." And then came the sightings. A woman standing near the old ridge fence, hair hanging like a curtain, dress blowing in wind that didn't move the trees, never walking, never turning, just waiting. They say the air went still around her, like the world knew to be quiet. One logger followed the sound of the bell one fog-heavy morning, swearing it was ringing just past the pine break. He found it, a bell hanging in midair, swinging gentle and slow. No rope, no hook, no tree branch, just floating. He reached for it. His hand sizzled on nothing, and by morning the skin peeled like bark from a burn. Said he dreamed of Callie that night, standing over him with eyes that dripped black tears and a crow on her shoulder that spoke in a man's voice. Some say the bell don't ring at random. It marks, it warns, it chooses. And if you hear it, not loud, but far off, like thunder under your feet, you best turn every light on in your house, pour salt in the corners, and pray to whatever'll listen, because if you hear the bell, Callie's already said your name, and she don't unring no bells. Now, I gotta ask, y'all ever heard tell of the bell in McKee? Or maybe you've been out walking some foggy holler and heard a sound that didn't belong to this world. Maybe you got kin who claim they knew Callie Bray, or had a night where the air turned thick and the animals all vanished at once. Drop your story in the comments, or send it straight to us at KentuckyMelody.com. You might just hear your tale shared right here. Now, if these Appalachian witch tales are setting your skin to crawling, go on and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to tap our bell. Not hers now, ours. We got haunted hollers, cursed creeks, and whispering woods coming every few days as we march toward Halloween. Till then, keep the lantern lit and your ears open, 'cause out here in these hills, sometimes the past ain't buried deep enough.